I found the letter on a Tuesday. Isn't it funny how life-changing moments always happen on the most ordinary days? I was cleaning out Dad's garage in Riverside 3 months after his funeral when I knocked over this old shoebox behind his workbench. Letters scattered everywhere, and there it was. Yellowed paper, careful handwriting, addressed to someone named Lynn. But before we dive into the story that turned my entire world upside down, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you're already feeling the emotions, and drop a comment below because I have a feeling this story is going to resonate with a lot of you. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. My name is Sarah, I'm 42, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew everything about my family. Dad was Robert Jones, half Chinese, half Irish, served 2 tours in Vietnam, came home, married my mom, had me and my brother Tommy. Classic American dream story, right? He worked construction, coached Little League, never missed a parent-teacher conference. The kind of dad who'd drive 2 hours to watch you play JV soccer. He never talked about Vietnam. Ever. When I was a kid, I'd ask, and he'd get this look, like someone had just turned off a light behind his eyes. Nothing good comes from digging up old graves, Sarah, he'd say. Then he'd change the subject to something safe, like whether I'd finished my math homework. So there I was, surrounded by decades of his life in cardboard boxes and dust. Old tools, faded photos, a purple heart he never displayed. And then, the shoebox. The first letter I picked up was dated March 15th, 1971. Dad's handwriting, but younger somehow. More careful. Like he was choosing each word with surgical precision. Why, dearest Lynn, I know I have no right to write to you after what I've done. After how I left. But I think about you every day and about our what? I flipped the page, my heart hammering against my ribs. Our daughter. Is she walking yet? Does she have your eyes or mine? I know you said you'd name her Mai if it was a girl. Sweet little Mai. The paper trembled in my hands. Not from the Santa Ana winds rattling the garage door. From something much deeper. I had a sister, in Vietnam, and my father who preached about family values, about responsibility, about never abandoning the people you love, had left them both. I sat on that concrete floor for 2 hours, reading through 37 letters. 37 love letters to a woman named Lynn Nguyen. A woman who worked as a translator for the army. A woman who got pregnant in the summer of 1970. A woman my father promised to marry, to bring to America, to build a life with, until he didn't. The last letter was different. Shorter. Written in February 1972, just 2 months before he met my mother at a USO dance in San Diego. Lynn, I can't come back. My tour is over and they're shipping me home. I've tried to figure out how to bring you and Mai with me, but the paperwork, the army won't help, and I don't have the money for lawyers. I'm not the man you thought I was. I'm not the man I thought I was. I've sent money. It's not enough, it will never be enough, but it's all I have. Tell Mai her father thinks about her every day. Tell her I'm sorry. Bobby. He signed it Bobby. I'd never heard anyone call him that. Not once in my entire life. You know that feeling when you realize your whole life has been built on a foundation that wasn't quite as solid as you thought? Like when you find out your house has been sitting on a sinkhole for 40 years and suddenly every crack in the wall makes sense. That's what this was. I drove home to my apartment in Newport Beach with a shoebox riding shotgun. Like it was a passenger who might try to jump out if I took the turns too fast. My hands were shaking so bad I had to pull over twice. Once at a gas station where I called in sick to work, and once at a Starbucks where I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at my phone. Who do you call when you discover your dead father had a secret family? Your therapist? Your brother? The Vietnamese embassy? I called Tommy first. My younger brother, the successful one, the one with the perfect wife and the perfect kids and the perfect house in Irvine. The one who never questioned anything about our family because it all made sense in his neat, organized world. Sarah? It's the middle of a Tuesday. Aren't you supposed to be at work? Tommy, I need to tell you something about Dad. Silence. Then, oh God, did you find drugs? Please tell me you didn't find drugs in his stuff. I found letters. Love letters. To a woman in Vietnam. What kind of letters? The kind that mention his daughter. His other daughter. Our half-sister. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Tommy finally spoke, his voice had that same careful quality Dad's letters had. Like he was choosing each word to avoid stepping on a landmine. That's impossible, Sarah. Dad would never. I'm holding the proof in my hands, Tommy. Well, maybe it's not what you think. Maybe it's fiction. Maybe he was writing a story or something. Tommy, sweet Tommy, still trying to keep the world in neat little boxes where dads don't abandon their children and families don't have secrets that could fill a shoebox. I'm going to find her, I said. Sarah, no. Just let it go. Dad's gone. What good is this going to do anyone? But I'd already made up my mind. That little girl from the letters? She'd be 53 now. She had a right to know her father was dead. And I had a right to know I wasn't the only daughter he'd ever had. The internet is a beautiful and terrifying thing when you're trying to track down family members you never knew existed. I started with Facebook, searching for my Nguyen in Vietnam. Do you know how many my Nguyen's there are in Vietnam? Approximately all of them. I tried ancestry websites, genealogy forums, even hired a private investigator who specialized in Vietnam War-era family searches. Turns out, I wasn't the only American kid looking for siblings their father had left behind. There's a whole community of us. Half Vietnamese, half Korean, half Filipino kids whose fathers came home from war and never mentioned the families they'd started overseas. 3 weeks into my search, I got an email from the PI. Subject line, possible match, my Nguyen Jones. My heart stopped. Jones. She'd taken his name. Sarah, I believe I've located your half-sister. My Nguyen Jones, born September 12, 1970, in Saigon. Currently living in Orange County, California. She's been in the U.S. since 1993. I'm attaching her current address and phone number. She works as a nurse at UCI Medical Center. One more thing. She's been looking for her father for 30 years, Orange County. She was in Orange County, 20 minutes from where I lived. All this time, we'd been neighbors and never knew it. I printed out her address and drove there immediately. No plan, no script, just this burning need to see her face. To see if she had Dad's stubborn chin or his way of tilting her head when she was thinking. The house was small, neat, in a neighborhood of small, neat houses where the lawns were perfect and the cars were sensible. I sat in my car across the street for 45 minutes, watching the windows, trying to work up the courage to knock on the door. What do you say? Hi, I think we have the same father. Sorry he abandoned you? I brought letters. I was reaching for the door handle when the front door opened, and she stepped out, even from across the street. Even after 53 years, I knew. Same height as Dad. Same way of moving, like she was carrying the weight of the world, but trying not to let anyone notice. She was heading to a white Honda Civic, probably going to work her shift at the hospital. I followed her. UCI Medical Center is huge, sprawling, the kind of place where you can get lost for hours looking for the right elevator. I watched her badge herself in through the staff entrance, then sat in the parking lot trying to figure out my next move. This was crazy. I was stalking my half-sister. A woman who didn't know I existed, who might not want to know I existed. What if she'd spent 30 years trying to forget about the American soldier who'd promised to come back for her and her mother? What if my existence just reopened old wounds? But then I thought about the letters. About the careful way he'd written her name. About how he'd kept those letters for 50 years, hidden in a shoebox behind his workbench, like a secret he couldn't quite bear to throw away. I went to the information desk. I'm looking for my Jones. She's a nurse here. The volunteer, a sweet-faced woman with silver hair, typed into her computer. Are you family? Yes, I said. And it was true, even if she didn't know it yet. I'm her sister. Oh, how wonderful. She's in the ICU on the 3rd floor. But visiting hours don't start until I'm not visiting a patient. I need to speak with her. It's It's about our father. Something in my voice must have convinced her. She made a phone call, spoke quietly, then hung up and smiled at me. She'll meet you in the family conference room on the third floor in 10 minutes. The elevator ride felt like it lasted 3 hours. When the doors opened on the third floor, she was standing there. Waiting dead up close, the resemblance was undeniable. Same dark eyes, same shape to her face. But where Dad had been rough around the edges, scarred by war and weather, she was polished, composed. The kind of person who'd learned to keep her emotions carefully locked away. "You said you wanted to talk about our father," she said. Her English was perfect, but there was the faintest trace of an accent. "I assume you mean Robert Jones. You know about me." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I've known about you and your brother for 20 years. I hired investigators too. The question is, what do you know about me?" We stood there in the hallway, two middle-aged women, studying each other like we were looking in a funhouse mirror that showed us what we might have been if our lives had gone differently. "I know he left you," I said. "I know he promised to come back and he didn't. I know he kept letters hidden in his garage for 50 years, and I know he died 3 months ago without ever trying to find you." Something flickered across her face. Not surprise. Not grief. Something harder to define. "Did he mention me?" At the end? "No." She nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Come. Let's sit down. There are things you need to know about your father." About our father. The conference room was one of those sterile medical spaces designed to deliver bad news. Beige walls, uncomfortable chairs, a box of tissues strategically placed on the table. My sat across from me, her hands folded in her lap, and, for the first time in my life, I understood what Dad must have looked like when he was thinking. "He did come back," she said quietly. "In 1995. I was 25, married, had a baby of my own. He found us in Saigon." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "He was older, grayer. Still handsome, though. Still had that way of looking at you like you were the most important person in the room." She paused, studying my face. "You have his mouth." "I don't understand. If he came back, why didn't he bring us to America?" "He tried. He offered. My mother, she was dying of cancer. She made me promise not to go with him. Said America had already taken enough from our family. But the letters. He stopped writing in 1972. He stopped writing. He didn't stop sending money. Every month, for 23 years, money appeared in our account. Enough to pay for my school, my mother's medical care, our rent. When I came to America in 1993, the money stopped coming to Vietnam and started coming here. For my nursing degree, my house, my children's college funds. I felt like I was drowning. Children. 3. Your niece and 2 nephews. And Sarah." She reached across the table and took my hand. "They all know about their grandfather Bobby. They all know about their American Aunt Sarah and Uncle Tommy. We've been waiting for you to find us." The rest of that afternoon is a blur of photographs and stories and phone calls to people whose names I'd never heard, but who knew mine. Mai's mother had died in 2001, but she'd kept every letter, every photograph, every money order Dad had sent. She'd built a shrine to the American soldier who'd kept his promises in the only way he knew how. "Why didn't you ever reach out to us?" I asked as we sat in her living room, surrounded by pictures of a family I'd never known existed. "Pride," she said simply. "And fear. You had a father who raised you, who coached your soccer games, who walked you down the aisle at your wedding. I didn't want to be the reminder of his mistakes." "But we weren't his mistakes," I said. "You weren't his mistake." "No," she said, looking at a picture of Dad holding her daughter when she was 2 years old. "But I was his secret. And some secrets are too heavy to carry alone." That night, I called Tommy and told him everything. About Dad's visits to Vietnam, about the niece and nephews we'd never met. About the money he'd been sending for decades, money that came out of the business trips we'd never questioned. "So he never abandoned them." "No. He just never told us about them." Why not? It was the question I'd been asking myself all day. Why keep us separate? Why build two families instead of one? The answer came to me 3 days later, when I was going through more of Dad's things and found his journal from 1995. The year he'd gone back to Vietnam. March 15th, 1995 saw my today. She's beautiful, looks just like her mother. Has 2 kids, boy and girl, smart as whips. The boy looks like Tommy did at that age. Same crooked smile. She introduced me as her father's friend. Her husband knows the truth, but the kids, safer this way. Less complicated. Told her about Sarah and Tommy. Showed her pictures. She wants to meet them someday, but not yet. Said she needs to understand who she is before she can understand who they are. I get it. Took me 50 years to understand who I am. Some bridges you don't cross until you're ready to burn them. 6 months later, Maya and I were sitting in the same Starbucks where I'd had my breakdown after finding the letters. Her kids were with us, my niece Rebecca, who's studying pre-med at UCLA, and my nephews David and Michael, who play football and argue about everything just like Tommy and I used to do. Tell me about Grandpa Bobby again, Rebecca said, stirring her latte. She'd started calling him that after seeing the signature on the letters. The stories from when you were kids. So I told her about the man who built tree houses and taught me to drive stick shift in a parking lot behind Sears. About the man who worked double shifts to pay for Little League uniforms and never missed a game. About the man who cried when I graduated college and walked me down the aisle when I got married, and I told her about the man who sent money every month without fail, who wrote letters her grandmother read aloud on birthdays, who came back across an ocean to meet his granddaughter when she was born. We were talking about the same man. Just different parts of him. Do you think he was a good father? David asked. He was 16. The age where everything is black and white, and you need the world to make sense. Mai and I looked at each other across the table, 2 women who'd spent their lives trying to understand a man who'd carried his war with him everywhere he went. I think he was a man who made impossible choices in an impossible situation, I said finally. I think he did the best he could with what he had. I think he loved us all, Mai added. Just in different ways. In the ways he knew how. Here's what I learned in those 6 months. Family isn't just about blood. It's about choice. Dad chose to support Mai and her mother from thousands of miles away for 23 years. He chose to visit Vietnam to meet his granddaughter. He chose to keep sending money even when it meant working extra jobs and skipping vacations, but he also chose to keep us separate. To build walls instead of bridges. To carry the weight of his secrets alone rather than share it with the people who loved him. I used to think that made him a coward. Now I think it made him human. The last letter I found wasn't in the shoebox. It was in Dad's wallet, folded so small and worn so thin from handling that I almost missed it. Just a few lines, written in Mai's handwriting when she was 7 years old. Dear Daddy, Mama says you are far away, but you think about me every day. I think about you too. I am learning English, so when you come home we can talk. I love you. Mai had carried that letter for 46 years. Through 2 marriages, 3 jobs, countless moves. Through soccer games and school plays and all the normal moments of raising the children he was there for. He'd carried all of us with him, everywhere he went. Today, Tommy and I are planning a trip to Vietnam. Mai wants to show us where she grew up, where Dad lived during the war, where her mother is buried. We're going to visit the places that shaped half of our family's story, and tonight, I'm having dinner with my niece and nephews, teaching them to make Dad's famous spaghetti sauce while Mai tells them stories about their grandmother Lynn, who was braver than any of us could ever imagine. Family is complicated. Family is messy. Family is people doing their best in impossible situations and sometimes failing and sometimes succeeding in ways you never expected. Dad isn't here to explain his choices, to defend them or apologize for them. But his children are. All of us. And we're learning to be a family he never quite managed to put together himself. If you're listening to this and you have secrets, if you have family members you've lost touch with, if you have bridges you're afraid to cross, maybe this is your sign. Maybe it's time to pick up the phone, write the letter, take the trip. Not all stories have happy endings. But some secrets are too heavy to carry alone, and sometimes the family you never knew you had is the family you've been looking for your whole life. Drop a comment below and tell me about your family stories, the secrets that changed everything, the relatives you found later in life, the bridges you've built or burned. I read every single comment, and your stories matter. And if this video moved you, if it made you think about your own family differently, please subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because these stories, these complicated, messy, beautiful family stories, they're what connect us all. Thanks for listening to mine.